What was the first game?
Okay, so when we are solving quadratic equations by factoring, the first thing we need to do is make sure that all of our terms are on the same side of the equation. They are on the same side of this equation. Okay, so x squared plus 5x plus 6. Now notice when we're dealing with quadratics, our highest exponent is a 2 or second degree. That is an indication that we're going to have two solutions. So in order to solve this by factoring, we factor the trinomial into x plus 2, x plus 3. You can see where I put the factors over here to the left. And we want the pair of factors that add up to 5, pair of factors of 6 that add up to 5, and they are 2 and 3. Now, notice, since we are set equal to 0, think about what the possibilities are here. If I've got something equal to 0, that means either the first factor's got to be 0, the second factor's got to be 0, or they've both got to be 0. Because 0 times something is 0, and something times 0 is 0, and 0 times 0 is 0. So what we do when solving a quadratic equation is we let each of these factors be equal to 0. So you can see how I solve for x. I've got x equals negative 2. X plus 3 equals 0. Solve for x. X equals negative 3. Now, that's all well and good. You can do all this, but it's unnecessary. Because when we solve quadratic equations, once we have those factors, we can solve it by observation. Basically, you're asking yourself the question, what is the opposite of 2? Well, it's negative 2. And what is the opposite of 3? Well, it's negative 3. Those are the values that make each set of parentheses equal to 0. Now, what if you had an expression like 2x plus 1 for one of your factors? You can still do it by observation. You look at it and you say, all right, I know I need the opposite. All right, because I always am dealing with the opposite. I'm going to take the opposite, but I'm going to take the second number over the first number. So the 1 over the 2. Now when I take that negative 1/2 and plug it in for x, the 2's will cancel, and negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So it works. All right, let's look at another slide. Okay, here are two more examples. Copy these down. Okay, so in example 2, we're doing the same thing. We're factoring. We get x minus 12, x plus 4. So x equals 12 and negative 4. That's all there is to it. But you've got to show me this step where you're factoring. Equal to 0. All right, in this next one, example 3, in example 3, notice there are not two factors of 12 that add up to 11. It doesn't work. Since it doesn't work, it has no solution. Now, is that the real answer? I mean, is that the truth about this problem? No. The truth is this does have a solution, but we cannot find it by factoring. Since we cannot find it by factoring, there's got to be some other method. And we've learned completing the square and the quadratic formula, and then we can find this solution to this very easily. We just can't do it by factoring. So factoring has its limitations. Okay, here's another example. Go ahead and copy this down. Okay, so if we have a quadratic equation such as x squared minus 4x equals 5, where the 5 is not on the same side as everything else, what we've got to do is get that 5 to the same side as the x squared. So when you're factoring, everything's got to be on the same side of the equation. To move that 5 over, all I've got to do is subtract it. Now, I don't even need to show this step. I showed it, but I don't need to show it because I know that when I move something to the other side of the equation, I'm changing the sign. All right? So x squared minus 4x minus 5 equals 0 factors into x minus 5 times x plus 1 equals 0, so that x equals 5 and negative 1. Now, I've got an example, another example up here, number 5. This is actually from our worksheet that we're going to work on. So I'm going to get that out now. I'm going to pass that out, and then we'll go over number 5. Okay, so if we look at number 5 on the worksheet, we see that there is a problem in that 33k is not on the same side as everything else. So we need to subtract 33k from both sides, or just move it over. When you move it over, you change the sign. Just make sure that you put the k where it's supposed to be. you want to have it as k squared, k, and then constant. So 3k squared minus 33k plus 72 equals 0. Don't forget your equals 0. Now once we've done that, then we're going to factor out our GCF if there is one. And there is. 3 is the GCF. So when we factor it out, we get k squared minus 11k plus 24. And then we can factor. You can just bring your 3 down. This trinomial is going to factor into k minus 8 times k minus 3. Because 3 times 8 is 24. And 3 plus 8 is 11. Negative 3 plus negative 8 is negative 11. So my solutions are k equals positive 8 and positive 3. Those are the opposites of what are in parentheses. Also notice that the GCF has nothing to do with our solution whatsoever. Now you're going to take a few minutes and do numbers 1 through 4 and 6, 7, and 8 on your worksheet.